Welcome to Lead Different, the podcast that redefines leadership and challenges the status quo. Hosted by Daniel Dominguez, founder and CEO of Why Not Leadership. This show is your compass to becoming a better leader through the power of self-awareness. Good leaders foster teams that are engaged, empowered, and energized. Join us on this transformative journey as we equip you with the tools and insights to lead different. Get ready to challenge the ordinary and embrace self-aware leadership. This is Lead Different.
Subscribe now. Discover a new era of leadership. Lead different, because great leaders change the world.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lead Different podcast. I'm excited to introduce you to 𝗀𝗂 today. We're going to have a great conversation about going from uncertainty to clarity. And who doesn't need some help in that department? How many of us are uncertain about what we should be doing, about our future, or are asking ourselves questions about where we should go? So the subtitle here is Turning Confidence and Ambition into Impact Through Self-Leadership and Resilience. So if you follow the Lead Different podcast, or if you follow Why Not Leadership, you know, we talk a lot about the importance of self-awareness. 𝗀𝗂 talks about self-leadership and then resilience. So I'm going to bring her on, and then I'm going to just start the conversation, because this is going to be a whole lot of fun. So hello, 𝗀𝗂. How are you today?
Hi, good. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you for being on. You know, it's been a while since I've met you, but you've gone through such a great metamorphosis that as I kept talking to you, I said, you know, 𝗀𝗂, we need to have you on the Lead Different podcast, because there's some things that you are doing that are definitely different, definitely pushing the envelope, and even for a person with the why of right way, you're doing some things that are unconventional and that I think our audience could learn from. So thank you for being on.
It's my pleasure.
Hey, tell us what you're doing today, because I want to get into your background and introduce you formally. But what are you doing today? Where are we talking to you from?
I'm actually at home. So most of the time I work from home. But I'm also going to go to campus because I'm also a college professor. So I have two commitments. One is my client, one is my student.
Yeah. So tell us, where are you a professor?
I am a professor at Xavier University in Cincinnati. I'm an econ professor. So it's something that I wanted to do from age 18. That's my major in college, and all the way through PhD.
Economics. So one of my favorite classes as an undergrad was economics. Actually, it's the class I met my wife in. So maybe that's why it's my favorite class. But it's one of those big, you know, Econ 101 or 102, where you've got like 100 people in the class, and I was at the bottom of the class. You know, it's a big auditorium style, and then my wife was all the way at the top, because she's always been the person that sits in the back. I'm not that smart. I was just told that if you sit in the front, you absorb more, and it forces you to pay attention. So I always sat up front, and there I was, and there she was, way up at the top. And we made eye contact, and then later on we talked, and you know, the rest is history. But so there's another good reason to like 𝗀𝗂. She teaches a subject that brought my wife and I together. So how does you know, what made you, you know, and we're going to get into your YOS later, but what made you at 18 say, hey, I want to be a college professor and teach economics? Because that's what you majored in, and you went all the way to get a PhD in economics. But what at 18? Because a lot of 18-year-olds say, I want to run the world. I want to run a company. I want to start my own business. I want to go model, go play professional sports. You said, I want to be an economics professor.
Yeah, Actually, at the age of 18, I only knew I wanted to do economics because that sounds fun. That's the only reason. But then I did not decide that I wanted to be a college professor until I was in my first year of my master's degree. That was like 23. Because like the reason why I wanted to be a professor is because I enjoy teaching. I love that's like from age 8. I had a blackboard at home, and like I always write on it and then pretending I was teaching someone something. So that's why I love teaching. And also when I was in master's degree, When I first got into it, I was like, I want to be a financial analyst. I want to take all the certification and then work in investment banking.
Right.
But then eventually I felt like I actually really enjoyed doing research in economics. And I love the process of getting deep into something. So there is only one job that I can see still today that would satisfy both needs, which is teaching and researching. And that's
Right.
being a college professor. So here I am today.
You know, before we even get into your introduction, you just opened up a door that I want to definitely walk through. You talked about how much you enjoyed research, and so our guests, I often even when they're not. By the way, Con and I are fellow Y coaches. We both use the YOS Discovery in our practices, and I definitely want to hear more about how you use it in yours, because again, we're going to get more depth from you than most of our guests, but. Let's get into your YOS. I'd like to introduce you that way. So why don't we do this, Con? I'm going to do your formal introduction, and then we're going to get into your YOS. Do you mind if we do that?
Of course. Let's do it.
All right. So let's do this. Let's bring it up and tell everybody your formal introduction. So Con is a mastery method certified leadership coach who empowers high achieving leaders and teams to transform uncertainty into clarity, doubt into confidence, and ambition into meaningful impact. Through a deep focus on self-leadership and emotional resilience, Con helps clients build sustainable success rooted in self-awareness. So you probably see some of the similarities in our approaches. I believe success happens when we start with self-awareness. So I'm already there with you, Con. Con also believes that success happens when things are done the right way, leading to predictable results. The right way comes from a deep self-awareness and understanding what's holding you back. So given that introduction, and I really appreciate how much is in there, because I think as coaches and as leaders, I'm working with a client on Wednesday on developing their personal brand. When I read that, I can tell, Con, you know what your strengths are. And when you talk about what you wanted to do at 18 years old, you knew you wanted to study economics. You wanted to go deeper. And so let's get into your YOS. And you've mentioned it. And the coaches in the audience who've done their own YOS, they know they probably expect the right way, because you talk about following systems and processes and getting results that are predictable, right? So that's right way. So your why is right way, your how is mastery. And already we've already heard hints of that, because you like digging deep and you like research. Not everyone likes research. Not everyone likes knowing everything they can about a subject, which probably makes you an excellent professor and also an excellent coach. And your what is trust. And with the why of right way and how of mastery, how could you not have trust? That these are people, Con is the kind of person you can count on. Number one, to do things the right way, follow systems and processes that are proven, and also to come to you very well prepared, very well researched. There's probably not anything Con is going to do that she hasn't researched at a deep level and understand at a really deep level in order to help you, so that you can trust her. And this is, I'm gonna pay myself a compliment here, Con, because you decided to become a Y coach when I was the chief growth officer at the Y Institute. Mastery people, right way mastery people are tough sales. So if you've ever been in sales and it wasn't really a sale, it was a great conversation we had learning more about the YOS. But what made you decide that this was an assessment worth having in your practice, Con?
I think this is pretty comprehensive way of understanding yourself, because we know there are a lot of tools outside, like Enneagram, like DISC, like the Strengths Finder and everything. So each of them has their own purpose, like either finding your strengths, finding your personality, or finding like personality / strengths. But I think YOS is more comprehensive than that. It's your why, it's your how, and I see how as your strengths. And it's your what, which is what you bring to the table. So from what I see, none of the other tests or tools that could give you a result this comprehensive that you can use as a system to like for your further development.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and it's amazing to hear uh how much there is there, right?
Yeah,
So,
a lot.
um, you could, and I use other assessments. I'm actually
Mhm,
going to become certified in Colby here soon
mhm.
in June, and I've got other assessments that I use, but I really like the why because it's the only one that gives you a language immediately. The minute you take it, you have language, right? So for you, it's I believe that success happens when we do things the right way in order to get predictable results. How I
Mhm.
do that is by seeking depth and breadth, and then what I bring is a relationship where where I can be trusted.
Yeah.
I want to be a trusted source. So it gives you language immediately for messaging who you are. And if we do it right, that messaging can become our powerful personal brand. How do you use it with your clients, Con? And tell, well, you know what? Let's start with this one. Let's start with the first question: is how did it impact you discovering that about yourself and getting that language?
Yeah, it's actually pretty powerful. And you actually helped me understand my YOS on one of our calls. So when I first got it, like what resonate with most with me is my how, which is mastery. And I know I love doing research and I love going deep. And when I reflect back on my coaching journey, I've taken two certification programs. And the first one, it was like only 3 months. And after I did it, I was like, this is good, but I still don't think I can do a good job, as good as I wanted using their tool. Because now when I reflect back, I think back then I thought it was superficial. Like
Mm,
we are solving some surface problems using some surface tools. But then the second certification program I did, that was year-long program, not just because it was long, it was in depth and it taught me how to get to the root of my own problems. And it indeed changed my life when I was going through that program. So I feel really resonate with that. And I think the reason is because my how is mastery. I want to
mhm.
go deep. If I have a problem to solve, if I have a goal to achieve, I want to use the tool that would get me to the root of
Right.
why and how.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up. At Why Not Leadership, we work with a lot of leaders, and one of the theories that Nikki and I have, and this will be a great question to ask Gary. I've got to get him on the show to talk more about this. I think our how shows more than our why
Mm-hmm.
in most people because it's how we do everything, right? And so your how of mastery shows, and your parents would probably be like, "Oh, Connie's mastery. She loved learning things. She loves researching and digging deep." My how is challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And people who don't know me, if they just look at me, right? I wear the plaid coats, the loud colors. It's how I do everything. I'm constantly challenging the way things are done, and that it's easily visible because it's how I do everything.
Yeah.
Even though I'm doing it in order to contribute, even though you're doing it in order to find systems and processes that
Mhm.
work. You were
Yeah.
gonna say something, go ahead.
Yeah. I think the reason why we see like our how more often is because we do it every day. But the why is what's hidden behind it.
Right.
And I think this is also the power of this tool. And that is, we don't just observe or identify what we can see every day, but we can also discover something that is behind it, that is driving it. So that's like one of the powers I see.
Yeah, it's really powerful, and it's really been fun working with leaders
Mhm,
because when, and we have a process we take people through understanding themselves and
mhm,
then understanding their teams.
yeah,
And when you understand what drives everyone on your team, it makes it so much easier. I would normally, you would look, and I used to say this when I was a junior YOS coach, when I was
mhm,
learning, I used to think, gosh, I don't know that I could handle working with right way people because they are so stringent and by the book, and I'm such a out of the box break the rules kind of guy. I find that when I know that about someone, I can adapt and actually benefit from their
Mhm.
genius, because what you do, that what the superpower that you have is something I don't have. And that is to create systems and processes
Mhm.
and to create predictability.
Yeah.
So one of the things you get with me is not predictability. It's yeah, I can go from one thing to another to another to another. Khan can help me. If she's my coach, I know she could help me create systems and processes where I could track the things
Yeah.
that are important in order for my business to succeed. And so many of us need that. So right way is, and it's so rare too, Khan. I don't know. I know it's not in the bottom three in terms of the 9 whys, but
Mhm.
what I have found is people with your why are always very successful because they've got their stuff in order, and they're usually helping others put their stuff in order, whether their challenge makes sense, whatever their why is. Right way people have a tendency to do that. Have you always been that person, the organizer, the person that summarizes, puts things together? Take us back to what's the youngest age that you remember being the one that said, guys, this is how we've got to do it?
Yeah. Like the youngest age. I can't remember the youngest age, but I have always been a planner.
Hmm.
Before I became a coach, I was very much into planning. I almost started designing my own planner because I just love this activity like every day. And I love to get things organized. And
Hmm.
one of my, I think that was like when I was in my 20s, early 20s. And I was like, at some point, I wanted to be an executive assistant to some sort of CEO because I feel like I can get my life organized, other people's life get organized, and help them identify a schedule or an agenda that would fit their goals or help them do whatever. So it's like I have always been this way, and I always love having a system. Well,
Right.
I don't particularly love like being rigid, which is the potential shortcomings as
Right.
somebody whose why is right way, right? And I know I can't just swing it or win it or just do without a plan. I can't do it.
Right.
But yeah, this is when I was like, when I found my result, why right way, I'm like, yeah, this is exactly me. Well, maybe I haven't done everything in the right way, but I
Right.
always wanted to have a plan and a system.
Yeah, and it's interesting because as you know, I was in the military, and in the military, everything you have to plan. We
Mhm.
plan meticulously, right?
Yeah.
But we also know that once the battle starts, the enemy doesn't tend to do exactly what we planned, right? They have their own idea, they have their own plan.
Yeah.
So it's important to be able to adapt when the
Mhm.
conditions change,
Mhm.
which is, I think, something you've learned, right? It's okay to have a plan and to try to follow it, but sometimes the plan doesn't work. And you're right. Right way people can tend to be rigid, but
Mhm.
that self-awareness that you have allows you to say, hey, am I being too rigid here, or should I maybe flex? Should I be open to other opportunities?
Yeah.
What does it take? And I probably know the answer to this, but I'd love
Mhm.
you for you to voice it. What
Yeah.
does it take when you have a system that works and is giving you results? What does it take to change your mind, to try something different?
That's a good question. Um, I think it's always keeping an open mind because at this point, I know that everything that works in the past may not be able to help me get to where I want to be.
Right.
And there is always uncertainty
Right.
down the road. And those uncertainty will ask for adaptation.
Hmm.
And that adaptation is actually um, going against my system
Right.
sometimes.
Right.
But I know that is necessary to help me get to where I want to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So here's the answer I was thinking, and you tell me if it makes, because your how is
Mhm.
mastery. So I would imagine in order for you to change a system, you're going to want to research it, right? If somebody says to you, "Hey, Con, this works better." If somebody
Mhm.
brings you an assessment like the YOS, "Hey, Con, here's something else to try," you're going to say, "Well, okay, let me look into it and let me dig into it. Let me do my research." And if the research comes back and you can say to yourself, "Yeah, you know what? It is
Mhm.
better," then you can confidently try something new.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Yes, totally. Like I would need to do some research to have more information. Well, sometimes it doesn't have to be like super deep, but I want to have more information before I make a decision.
Yeah, no, and that makes total sense, and that's the benefit, and I tell my clients all the time, that's the benefit of using the YOS, because I knew going into my conversation with Con after she had taken the assessment, this isn't someone you're gonna just say, "Hey, let's do it. Sign up today." Con was gonna need time to think about it. And I think we probably had 3 or 4 phone calls
Mhm.
before you made a decision. But I also knew that when you made a decision, it was a decision that would
Mhm.
last because you had done your homework, you had looked at all the possibilities, and you found value in it. Would you agree with that? That was kind of the sales process for you?
Yeah, I think that's a really good reminder because sometimes we say, okay, we know our own why, how, and what,
Right.
but it's also beneficial to know whoever you are working with, their why, how, and what. Because for me, if you tell me something without detailed information, without doing research on your own, I can tell that you did not do that. And whatever you say will not be attractive to me. But if you are doing it and I can see that you put in the effort and time into research, then it's attractive to me. And even if the information is not perfect, but just the action you are taking
Mhm.
speaks a lot to me. So it's like when we are making a sales or when we are trying to convince someone to do something or to take a look at something. Now it's important to know their why, how, and what so that we can speak their language to make sure like what we are doing is exactly what they need. Like to me, mastery is what I need.
Exactly, and it's so funny you say that. We call it the platinum rule. You
Mhm.
know, people don't want to be treated the way you like to be treated. They like to be treated the way they like to be treated. So,
Mhm.
preparing for Con, I remember, well, I know she's gonna have questions, and I've gotta send her information because I know Con is gonna read it. There are some clients, you can send them all the information in the world, they're not gonna read it. Con probably read every clicked on every link that I sent her and read it
Mhm.
and took notes and before she made her decision. So I knew what you needed. You needed information and you needed to see how this was going to fit into your system
Yeah.
so that you could trust it. So, it's interesting the way we do that. Tell me, I want to move over unless you have any more thoughts on this, because I want to make sure I get everything on you from you on that.
Yeah. All good. All good.
Good.
Yeah.
So let's talk about coaching versus mentoring. I think that's a I've seen you talk about it, but I would love to hear your definition. What's the difference between coaching and mentoring?
Hmm. So, mentoring, from what I see, is if you are a mentor to somebody, then you have walked a path that they want to walk down the road so that you have the information, the advice, the insight to give them. But as a coach, you may not have walked a path, but what you are there, the reason why you are there is to help the person to identify their own path if they haven't decided yet. Or if they know what to do, where they want to go, but they just can't take the action to actually do it, that's where the coach comes in to help them to move through the blocks to actually taking action.
Okay, so that's really good. I can see that, and that answer really helps leads to my next question because there's a lot of coaches out there who
Yeah.
feel imposter syndrome, like I can't how can I coach someone if
Mhm.
I haven't done it?
Mhm.
And I think your definition helps us to tell them, "Hey, you don't have to have done it. You're
Yeah,
a coach, not a mentor."
yeah.
When you don't have to have walked the path in order to help someone find what they need to tweak or the process or system they need to follow in order to achieve the goals that they're looking to achieve. Now, I heard you say earlier, this is
Mhm.
I'm going to give you a compliment, Con, because you look so young. You said when I was in my 20s, I'm like, what, like last year, right? I'm sure it hasn't been that long when you were in your 20s, but as a young person who, on top of being young, you look younger than you probably are. How have you dealt with, or have you had to deal with feeling imposter syndrome because of your lack of experience?
Yeah, so all the time, and especially at the beginning of my business. So I am turning 38 this year. Um, but then people always say, you don't look like you're 38. Now, when I was in my 20s, I love hearing that. And trust me, I've spent thousands of dollars on skincare product to make myself look younger. But then when I was in my 30s, when I came to my 30s, and then when people say you look younger, and sometimes it does not feel good because you looking younger sometimes means you are not experienced. And then it would translate into we can't trust you because of that.
Mm,
So it's not a good feeling to look younger now than 10 years ago.
mhm.
But just the other day, I was on a call with somebody, and then we met for the first time. And then she, toward the end of the call, asked me, "So, how old are you?" I'm like, "I'm turning 38." And she said, "That's why, because I thought you were younger. But then after talking to you, I feel like you have a lot of experience. You have a lot of insight to share, which contradicts my guess, which is you're in your 20s." So I'm like, thank you for asking that. And thank you for confirming that because we all need that validation piece,
Right,
right? I want
right.
people to see I am old, not like 50 old, but I'm older and I'm like 38, not 28. And I have the capability to do what I claim I can do.
Right.
But I guess sometimes we know this is like an external validation,
Mhm.
but deep inside, I think the most shift I've had is I trust myself. I trust my own ability in coaching people because I've coached people who are in their 30s, but I've also coached people who are in their 50s and 60s. I've coached people who are managers, but also people who just got out of C suite and transitioning into retirement. So I've coached all different people in different age, and I use very similar approach. And
Mhm.
I feel like the problem or the work somebody who is in their 60s is doing sometimes can be the work I have done in my 20s.
Mhm.
And I have gone through different types of transformation. And I believe in my ability to help people do the same. So I think the inner trust is so much more important than the external validation.
Yeah.
But we need both. We can't say, okay, we want to work on ourselves, all the inner work, without anybody saying anything like you're good, you are experienced. We still need the external validation,
Right.
but we get to start from inside to make sure next time when imposter syndrome comes up, we have an approach to deal with it, to work through it.
So how did you go from that? You probably did the inner work first.
Mhm,
What advice do you have somebody who's feeling that imposter syndrome to get that confidence in themselves, trust themselves?
mhm,
Because like you said, you had a client tell you, and that external validation is good. We see it on our LinkedIn. Somebody loves our post, right? We that
mhm.
adrenaline rush, that dopamine hit that we get when somebody agrees with us or sees something that we do as insightful. But until you get there, until you start getting that external validation, what tips do you have to help people feel or understand and get that confidence that you had that allowed you to move forward?
Yeah. So I think there are like 3 things I did. The first one is look at my own transformation, look at my own experience, and look at my own superpower. Because for a long time, I was thinking, okay, I've never been working in corporate. How can I be a leadership? I have never been in the C-suite. I have never been a director or a VP. How can I coach people to get to where they want to be? But then eventually I found that this is my superpower. The fact that I have never worked in corporate is my superpower, because I don't tend to tell people what to do next, because people have already heard a lot of strategies from everywhere, even online. But I am here to guide people, to really coach people into finding their own strengths, their own approach, their own way of succeeding. So I see that as my power. So sometimes we have imposter syndrome because we think we are not something, but the fact that you are not that thing might be your strength, might be your advantage. So that's like one way, one thing I realized. And second is probably only 2. Second is to see where this imposter syndrome comes from. And that's when I went deep. I went deep on myself. Like, why do I feel I'm not experienced all the time? Even if like in academia, I have been in academia for 10 years. Why do I still feel like I'm an imposter? Why do I still feel like others will find out that I don't know anything?
Right.
So that is the deep work I do with my client and also with myself. I found that is like go way back into my childhood, where I was rarely complimented on. And I was always told, I have this to improve on, I have this to change. So for a long time, I have been a people pleaser and a perfectionist, because I want to be great. I want to do well so that I can receive compliment. So deep inside, there's always this, I'm not enough.
Right.
And that takes time to overcome, because I have always been wanting to prove to my dad, I can do ABC. I am so much better than ABC.
Right.
But then once I get out of that mindset, get out of that need, I'm not going to prove myself to be anything. I just want to be myself. And I'm very content with where I am now. I don't need to always chase and go further to show you that I can always achieve more. I don't need that. I don't feel joy in doing that. So once I shift that, it gives me the enoughness that I always need to move forward. Because the imposter syndrome, why am I an imposter? Because I'm not enough. Either I did not learn enough, I did not do this enough, I did not think about this enough. It's all about not enough. But once we have that enoughness inside ourselves, that imposter syndrome isn't going to be a problem.
Enoughness. That's a great word. I don't know if that's a new word for me, or maybe it's you probably could tell me more about it. Then I love that word, enoughness. There's enoughness to get the job done. You mentioned your dad. A lot of times this stuff comes from our childhood, right? From mom, dad, big brother, big sister. Are you an only child? Or are you one of
Child.
So you're an only child. So all the hopes and dreams of your mom and dad were on con, right?
and all the
It's
criticism
yeah.
and hopefully all the compliments, right? But
Yeah. So,
like,
yeah,
mhm,
what was your dad's parenting style? Was he someone was he it sounds like he was critical. He probably doesn't even realize that he was, right? When we go
mhm.
back and have those conversations. Tell us about that. How have you had a conversation with him now that you've overcome some of this stuff? And what was his reaction?
um, I think I've had such conversations with him. But it's hard to change somebody's mind
Right.
because when like it's all out of like criticism, compliment, it's all out of a good intention.
Right.
Right? Like he wants me to achieve more. He wants
Right.
me to do better. He wants everybody to like me.
Mhm.
And this is like something I remember very clearly. I was told that I think it was when I was 14 or 15, you need to be liked by everyone, even those that you don't like. And at the age of 14, I was like, why? But I still took it as some sort of principle. Like I have
Mhm.
to follow, I have to make sure it happens. And I think that's why mm, I have been a people pleaser for a long time, probably up until I was like 35 when I really did the work. And I was a perfectionist because I want to do everything perfectly so everyone likes me. But it just cannot happen. And eventually I just realized it just cannot happen. And I don't need to.
Right.
In order to be a good professor, and we, like, as professors, we also take evaluations every single semester. There are
Mhm.
numbers, right, to evaluate us. But I don't need every student to like me. I don't need every person to resonate with my message to be a coach. I am speaking to the student, to the client, to everyone on the internet who would resonate with my message.
Right.
If you don't resonate with my message, that's totally okay. It's not your fault. It's not my fault. It's just maybe we're not a good match, and that is okay. So it's also the okayness with not being liked by everyone and not evaluate or measure your enoughness with the likeness, like how do I say, likeliness
Yeah.
of
Being liked, right?
yeah, yeah.
That's interesting, and I'm a dad. I have a daughter that's close to your age, so I can remember, offhanded comments that I make. When you're little, they become right. So, did your dad remember saying, "Hey, you need to be liked, even by the people you don't like," and what was his perception of that comment? Now, because when you take that could be tough. I can imagine, especially as a 14-year-old, thinking, "Man,
Yeah,
I gotta be liked by everyone. How do I make somebody that I don't even like them? Why do I care if they like me?" But I
yeah.
think you came back to it
Mhm,
in a really cool sense. I think you've realized that you don't need everyone to like you. The
mhm.
people that resonate with your message are the people you want to work with,
Yeah,
right? Dr. Sean O'Mara, who was on the podcast, he ended a post the other day that said, "DM me if you'd like to work with me.
yeah.
I'm not looking to convince skeptics. I'm
Mhm.
here to work with visionaries who want to make a difference."
Yeah,
Man, if you're a skeptic, don't call me. Don't waste my time, right?
yeah.
I don't need to prove to you. If
Mhm,
you resonate with my message, call me. Let's get started.
mhm,
So let's go. There was two questions there, so I'm sorry
mhm,
about stacking. And one is, how did your dad remember that conversation? And then the second one is, what's the transformation to be able to say, I don't care.
mhm.
How did you make that transformation? Let's start with the first one. Your dad. Did he remember saying it?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
But even if he does not remember he said that, but I think from what I've observed, that's something that he has lived by.
Right.
And I can see it in his behavior and also from what he is telling me in other situations. So, and that's like, as a coach, now I can see this is something that you need to shift. Like my dad need to shift in order
Right.
to live the next 20 to 30 years even better.
Right.
But I did not say anything about that
Hmm.
because like that's a deeper conversation to have, right?
Sure, sure. No, that's good. Thank you for sharing so much that you already have, because I think that's important as we do deep work with our clients, and I'm sure you do the same with yours.
Mhm,
As we dig deeper, we have to look at, hey, where did that come from? Rosie Ward, a good friend of probably both of ours. I don't know if you're following Rosie. She's a fellow Y coach.
mhm,
She takes us back to that 8-year-old self, that 9-year-old self, and those doubts that we have often come
mhm.
from somebody who picked on us and when we were 8 years
Yeah.
old, and they made fun of something we did, and then we've made it our mission never to allow that flaw to show
Mhm.
again, right? We're not
Yeah.
going to do that again. So that's what that deep work does. It
Mhm.
allows us to understand others
Yeah.
too,
Yeah.
when they're going through that deep work. So I think there's a lot of value to that. um
Mhm.
I want to ask you a question, because there was a recent post of mine on ego,
Yeah.
and you said ego is our best collaborator and our biggest enemy.
Mhm.
So let's share with the audience, because I thought that was really deep, and I said, you know what, I'm going to save the question and ask it on the podcast. So it's our biggest. It can be our biggest, our best collaborator and our biggest enemy. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So the biggest enemy part is relatively easier to understand because we all say, don't let your ego do this or that, right? Our ego
Right.
would resist feedbacks. Our ego would care how we look like on the outside, but not like how we feel deep inside. And our ego does not like vulnerability. But the reason why I said ego can also be our collaborator is because, first of all, ego pushes us forward. Ego has ambition, and ego can be our biggest driver. And ego is also part of ourselves. So we can always have a conversation with our ego to see, why do you want this? And how is this serving you? And if it is not serving you, then how can we make a change? So we can always have a conversation with the ego to actually come to an agreement on what is the best way forward. It's almost feel like we are not lonely in whatever journey we are on because we have a companion right inside of us or right next to us, which is our ego. That's why I said ego can be our biggest or best collaborator.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. One things I tell my daughter, she's 13,
Mhm,
my youngest daughter, and I'm like, you know what? There are a lot of people out there who are going to doubt you.
mhm.
Don't be one of them. Don't
Yeah.
doubt yourself, right? Don't add to it.
Mhm,
That's where you need a little bit of a positive ego boost. You got to be your own biggest fan,
mhm.
so you can get through that stuff. That's really good. Thank you so much for sharing that, Con.
And also,
Um,
like your ego, for example, can tell you, like in my case, your dad is not going to like it. So you can't do it. That's what your ego is telling you because the ego is trying to protect you.
right.
Right. But the thing is, we eventually, after the conversation, we might realize that we don't need to change the other person,
Hmm.
shift ourselves,
Mm,
right? Like, I don't need my dad to change his view on being liked
right.
to actually shift my belief from I need to be liked by everyone to I only need to resonate with people who resonate with me. There
Yeah.
is a match and there is a mismatch, and there is always a mismatch. So
Yeah.
we need to focus on ourselves, not the other person.
That is such great advice. Who do you love working with, Con? Who are your clients that you say, man, if I had 10 of those or
Mhm.
20 of those, this would be a great year. Who do you love working with?
Yeah, so I love working with leaders in their 40s, 50s, and 60s who want to make an impact, some meaningful impact, who want to leave a legacy, who who cares more than performance. Like, of course, performance is one thing, and we need high performance self and high performance team,
Mhm.
but we don't just want to work on the surface level to acquire more strategies, but instead to work on ourselves, to develop the self leadership, to actually understand ourselves, understand truly what we want in our vision, and to find the best approach moving forward to bring that vision to life. So that's like my ideal client, I would say.
Well, good. I always like to ask that question because I want to know who I can send to you, right? Who may come to me that I don't maybe not a fit for them, but they'll be a fit for you. So thank you for sharing that and for sharing that with our audience. You mentioned I think you said you're 38 years old, so 35 years old is about when you said you did that deep work.
Mhm.
And I've got to tell you, I'm going to be honest with you. I have sensed that transformation in you. I have seen the confidence grow. Just even in the posts that you put on LinkedIn, on your
Mhm.
social media, the way you message Con, and the conversations that we've had.
Mhm.
I think it's been, I don't know if it's been 2 or 3 years, but your evolution and your growth has definitely expanded, and you're a more confident, much more effective, and a great source of
Mhm.
leadership knowledge that you probably always had, but I see it now so much more. So I want to compliment you on doing that hard inner work. Did you work with the coach yourself, Con?
Yeah, I have always worked with the coach. This my current coach, I've worked with her since 2023, May 2023. So it's been almost 2 years. Yeah, exactly 2 years. So it's been a good, like she was my mentor slash coach, like business mentor and business coach.
Right.
And that's like the difference between mentor and coach. She would tell me what is the best way to do, what is the best way to message, how can I actually bring my message out from my experience. But when I can't really say it out loud, when I am experiencing imposter syndrome, when I am not able to take the leadership,
Hmm.
then that's when I turn to her as well for coaching.
Right.
Because I'm telling you what to do, but you still can't do it. Why is that? Let's dive deeper. So I really love this dynamic, mentoring slash coaching. And for a lot of leaders, they can be a mentor and they can also be a coach.
Right.
Because I always say, you don't need a coach if you have
Right.
a mentor who can actually coach you through this.
Right.
Right. So, yeah.
Yeah. So you know what? That's a great point. I have a coach. I think it makes it easier to
Mhm.
be a coach when you have a coach. I think the sales process is we're go. I think everybody needs a coach, right?
Mhm.
I always use the example, and you're at Xavier, who not only is it a great academic institution, it's a great sports institution. You have great
Mhm.
basketball teams, and we hear about you all the time. But I always use Tom Brady, who is just an amazing athlete, right? Won more Super Bowls than anybody. He had a coach, right? So if the greatest athletes in the world, Olympians, people who are faster, stronger, and what was it, faster, stronger than anyone else in the world, have coaches,
Mhm.
and their coaches, Tom Brady's coach could not throw the football as far as he did and could not run as fast as he could.
Yeah.
That's not your job as a coach. Your job is to
Mhm.
observe and provide insight and help that person improve, because there's a difference of seeing what you can see yourself versus what others can see. And I think that adds a bit of credibility. And I'm so glad I'd love to meet your coach, Con, because sounds like an amazing person. So we'll maybe have to talk about that
Mhm.
after the interview.
Of
Con,
course.
what's one bit of advice you would give to somebody who is, how about another PhD,
Mhm.
young, but even younger looking, who is looking to make a difference with leaders and feels that calling to give back by helping people lead better,
Mhm.
but they're afraid to take that next step. What would be your advice to them?
I would say, because when I first started coaching, I actually look at my calendar. Is this a good time? And that's a real question because I have
Mhm.
tenure to apply, right? I need to make sure that happens. And it's not about like imposter syndrome or whatever. It's literally about timing.
Right.
So when we decide to do something or whether to do something, we can ask ourselves a really realistic question, which is this a good timing? If I have everything ready, is this a good timing? Not assuming like I don't know anything, but if I have everything ready, is this a good timing? And if it is, then do it. Like as a mentor, I would say, if it is a good timing, then do it. Now, as a coach, I would say, if you have everything now and you still can't bring yourself to do the thing you want to do, why is that? And that's probably the time to actually go deeper to say, is
Mm,
it perfectionism? Is it imposter syndrome? Or is it you don't want to say no to something else? Because a lot of times we tell people, say no to something or be bold, say yes. But then the next question to ask is, what am I saying yes to? Behind this opportunity, what am I also saying yes to or saying no to?
right.
And that will help you make a decision down the road.
I love that. So yeah, for every yes you say, for everything you say yes to, you're saying no to something, right?
Mhm,
And
mhm.
so if those no's are occupying too much space and you have to evaluate them, this has been so really good, Con. You've shared some tremendous insights, and I love looking into the brain of right way and mastery people. So you've shared some great insights into the process that you take to make decisions,
Mhm.
and I can see why you're such a valuable coach to your clients, and the depth that you bring to that interaction. As I said, you're obviously working with a great coach who's helping you come along just because we've seen you. So, guys, if to our audience, if you've enjoyed this interview, follow Con. I know she's on LinkedIn. What other platforms are you on, Con?
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm right now only on LinkedIn.
Fabulous. So Con Yu is on LinkedIn, just like you see it on the screen. Don't forget, if you're getting value from this podcast interview, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, follow us, and let us know your thoughts on the interview. Con has been very open, and really enjoyed having you on. Con, what do you say we end the interview on that note?
Why not?
Thank you so much for being on, Con. It has been a pleasure getting to know you, watching you develop and grow, and watching you bring value to the community, to your community, and to your university. I know this would be probably one of many conversations that we have, because I can see value in being associated with you. We want the Lead Different podcast to feature you, and we want to be associated with Conway Leadership Coaching in the future. So we thank you for being on, and we look forward to having you back again, maybe in a couple of years, or if you have
Yeah,
something big going on, we want to help you publicize it. So thank you so much for being on, Con.
thank you so much for your support.
Have a great rest of your day, guys. We're here every week on Fridays at 1 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Mountain Time for a new episode, and I look forward to sharing another great interview in the future with you. But for now, let's say thank you to Con and have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.
This is Lead Different.
Subscribe now. Discover a new era of leadership. Lead different because great leaders change the world.